So with us today for our first and what we hope to be many to come, State of Pennsylvania's Agriculture Education webinar, Dr. Scott Shealy, Interim Director of the Pennsylvania Commission for Agricultural Education Excellence, Ms. Darla Romberger, 2020 PAAE President, Mr. Mike Brammer, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania FFA Association, along with guests from the Department of Education, Dr. Gerald Huskin, and hopefully Dr. Lee Burkett will be able to join us at some point throughout. If you have a question throughout today's webinar, you may use the chat box feature as well as the Q&A feature. We will be holding all questions until the end of today's webinar. So feel free to type away, ask away throughout, and we will wait to get through the rest of the agenda items before we start answering those. So to kick things off, we're going to have Dr. Scott Shealy introduce some of our guests from the Department of Education, because I know some of us have, some of those folks have some schedules to attend to, and we want to get them the chance to give their updates at the very start. So Dr. Shealy, take it away.
So welcome you all to this webinar where we're going to talk about the state of the agriculture education in Pennsylvania. I'm Scott Shealy. I'm the Interim Director of the Pennsylvania Commission for Agriculture Education Excellence. I'm also joined by a number of people who we consider to be part of our staff, and that would include Dr. Jerry Huskin from the Pennsylvania Department of Education. You've already met Jonathan Seaman, and of course Mike Brammer, who's with the FFA organization. Darla Romberger will also be presenting on behalf of the Pennsylvania Association of Agricultural Educators. So they asked me to really give kind of an overview of the work of the Pennsylvania Commission. We have been kind of out there quietly doing the work that that we have been mandated to do. And really out of that, I think we have developed kind of a wealth of information. The Commission has been very involved over the last year or so in what I would call fact-finding. Basically, the mandate of the Commission is to find out what is going on in the agriculture education system, and then to find ways that we can fill gaps, come up with solutions, make suggestions about how it could be improved, whether that's through legislation, funding, or other kind of programmatic kind of things. So over the last year or so, the Commission has been looking at, we have been talking to a variety of groups and have actually invited them to come in to do what I would call case study types of presentations to Commission meetings. So over the last 6 months, we have talked to the Northeast Equipment Dealers Association. We have talked to representatives from Saul High School, from the Erie School District, from Fox Chase School in Philadelphia, from your colleagues at Conrad Weiser, at Penn Manor, and at Selinsgrove, and have really had a chance to have some in-depth conversations. So really out of the fact-finding, we're trying to make sense of kind of what's the implications of that, what are the issues that we have going forward. So I'd like to summarize that, I guess, in a couple of buckets that we've been talking about at the Commission, which will probably be translated some way or another to our work plan for the 2020-2022 period of time, but also will probably translate in some way or another into the report that we have to do for the legislature and for the governor that's due May 1st. The first big bucket, I think, falls into what I would call relevance. Basically, most of you know that the agriculture and food industry is in a crisis with regard to the workforce shortage. We have probably at the very least 75,000 open jobs that are projected for the next 10 years. That could be as high as several 100,000, depending on how we count them and what's included in the overall industry profile. Industry, we found, expects job-ready people. So people in industry are asking questions of our agriculture education system about how prepared are people to come out of high school or college and to be ready to step into jobs. So with that, I think we have followed a track. We have actually engaged with the apprenticeship people who are doing some work in that area, because that's the direct way that industry is speaking in terms of what it's looking for as far as job requirements. The case study that we did on that showed that there's some issues with that, because when we think about our people job ready after they come out of, for example, an agriculture mechanics program, we found that there are certain kind of gaps to be able to make that match up to the needs of the industry. So apprenticeship raised questions about pre-apprenticeship, ways we could bring that into high school. That raised questions about what we found to be curriculum gaps, and then also gaps in teacher training to be able to teach the curriculum. We think that that's probably an example of the way it might be with other occupation areas and career paths. So that's something we'd like to really explore. We'd like to explore a little bit more the numbers that show up in terms of the participant in ag programming in relation to the completers of ag programming. And that's something we'd really like to talk about at the PAAE Summit this summer. We have been looking at investments in curriculum and in teacher training. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through the program. Probably a need to revisit the AFNR standards in some way or another to make sure that those are right on track. And then we continue to recognize the importance of the occupational advisory committees, and are planning to work with Penn State to do some technical assistance along those lines. So relevance, the industry, what does the industry need, and where does that go from there in terms of programming? The second area is what I'm calling engagement. This is it's an area where we've had these questions about how do we engage young people and their parents in the conversation around agriculture careers, and particularly doing that at an earlier age. So we have found that outreach to K through 8 grades is growing. The local areas are actually working at that very hard, and that we have been trying to pull together groups of people who have that interest. We have a K to 8 working group that is meeting. We would love to have any of you who are interested in participating in that be a part of it. That group is not only formal education, but informal as well. We have been supporting things like Farm City Day and STEM Day at the Farm Show. And you'll see in just a little while a social media campaign that we have put together that actually targets the parents of kids in the K through 8 world. So relevance, engagement. The third piece, and again, I think that we'll develop this theme as we get into it. We've already seen it to be an important issue, but it's the one of local leadership. We see this in some of the questions that are being asked right now about how to do agriculture and science fit together. What is that connection, and what do we need to do to make sure that we're prepared to do the STEM kind of activities that people are looking for in the K through 8 world. We're interested in how do local structures affect curriculum and around that particular issue. We have had as part of our mandate from the beginning to look into the use of funds. I mean, why do some schools use Perkins, some don't certify their programs so they can get the subsidy? Why is that? And is there something we can do to make things more productive for everybody? And finally, the teacher shortage is alarming. We don't have enough people who are going into our pathways. And so really the question is, what do we do about that as we go forward? And again, the Commission has a great deal of interest in this. You'll hear a couple of beginning efforts in the direction of actually addressing some of this as we go through the program today. So I'm going to stop at this point, and I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Jerry Huska.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jerry.
Okay, thanks. I'm Jerry Huskin. I'm the liaison at PDE to the Ag Commission for Education Excellence. And I'd like to talk about, Scott's asked me to talk about a couple initiatives we're working on that really have resulted directly from the work of the Commission during the past couple of years. One of them involves expanding the vocational certifications that are available to teachers in the field or potential teachers in the field. Currently, of the 9 SIP codes that are available under the education heading, only one of them, horticulture, provides a pathway for certification on a vocational route. And what that means is vocational instructional 1 certification can be acquired through the passage of an occupational examination, having at least 2 years of wage earning experience in the occupation involved, and the completion of an approved program of at least 18 semester hours in the areas of general, professional, and vocational professional education. The minimum of those, a minimum of 50%, I should say, of the program must be in vocational professional education. Those courses can be taken at 3 centers statewide, Temple, Penn State, and Indiana University of Pennsylvania. The areas that we've expanded the vocational track to are agricultural mechanization, agriculture production operations, animal sciences, natural resources management, agricultural and food products processing, and forestry technology. And one of the main reasons for doing this was to bring some additional folks into the field that have the hands-on field experience, but also to address teacher shortages that we've heard about throughout a number of the contacts we've had over the past couple of years. So allowing an additional route to certification is something that we felt was critical, and one of the earlier recommendations that our commission has made. PD is in the process of getting that started. Once the subject codes are available, a teacher could apply for an emergency cert through the local school district, and if the school district approves that and facilitates that, then the person can start moving forward with taking the exam and taking the coursework that's required to get their certification. So that's one way we've tried to pick up on the work of the recommendations of the commission. Another way involves the SAS portal, the Standards Aligned System portal, that's available to anybody really in the state to sign up. It's an incredible resource of sharing best practices and related to the standards in Pennsylvania. And again, sharing best practices has been a goal of the commission. And this is one way we're trying to do that through avenues and resources that already exist. And some of you may be familiar with the SAS portal. Certainly when you go on there, you'll be able to go under your SAS tools and go under communities, and eventually be able to find the agriculture resources that are going to be posted there. Currently, we're posting under the environmental and ecology community, only because this is a standards aligned system. It's based on the standards, so the current general ag standards are located there. But you can also go in under materials and resources. That's another tab that'll be at the top of your SAS screen when you join that portal. And you can go under search materials and resources and type in agriculture and find the agricultural resources very easily that way. What we'd like to do is make sure agriculture is more prominent and easier to find. So we're still working on that, and we'll certainly get that information out to the field once we establish that. But again, there are 2 major initiatives we're working on that came directly from recommendations from our Ag Commission. So with that, I'll turn it back to John.
But as Dr. Shealy mentioned, in exploring and doing some fact finding to align school-based agricultural education to the Pennsylvania Registered Apprenticeship and Pre-Apprenticeship Program, it was identified there were some gaps between what the Ag Mechanization SIP program has programs teaching and what the dealers were saying were needed by their folks that they were hiring in as entry-level technicians. So we here at the center, along with support from the commission, worked with the Northeast Equipment Dealers Association to organize and put on some Teach the Teachers sessions to try to fill some of those gaps where some of our teachers might need some training in order to best support their students interested in doing those pre-apprenticeship levels. And as Dr. Shealy mentioned, those three gap areas were in diesel, hydraulics, and electrical diagnostics. So if a few of you may know, in the summer of last year, the center, along with Northeast Equipment Dealers Association, coordinated an electrical diagnostics workshop down at the Lancaster Farm and Home Center. A couple of you on the call today might have been there. I don't remember. But we are going to do a repeat of that again this coming June 15th through the 18th here at University Park campus. And a few weeks after that, or a week after that, actually, we have our first ever hydraulics Teach the Teacher workshop, in which Mr. John Fike, diesel instructor here at Central Pennsylvania Institute of Science and Technology in Center County, is going to be spending a week with teachers, taking a deep dive look at hydraulics, which is an area in which, in my 15-ish years of involvement with Pennsylvania school-based ag education, I don't remember a very focused training for teachers specific to hydraulics. So that's a new and exciting opportunity coming up. So keep your ears and eyes open for more advertisements to get yourself registered for that if you're interested. And I see Dr. Shealy's trying to reconnect here. But to continue on with our remedial skills training for teachers, we also hope to coordinate and offer down the road in the not too distant future a similar type of training focused on diesel. And Mr. Tim Wentz with the Northeast Equipment Dealers Association is working through his networking to organize the type of setup like Briggs & Stratton has for gasoline engines, but for diesel, to provide some extra training and curricular resources, as well as some actual engines that programs might be able to get their hands on to help students explore that content a little bit more. So, Dr. Shealy, can you hear us yet? Okay, unfortunately not. So, moving along, I can also, looking at the kind of agenda that the panelists are following here, I can provide an update on the SAE specialist, Carol Fay, who is away on a family trip right now, visiting some family, but did submit a report to be shared with the group here today. Many of you know Carol Fay. She's a retired school-based ag teacher, and for, I'd say, the past 2 to 3 years has been working as our state's SAE specialist, visiting schools, supporting new and even some experienced teachers in the way of school supervised agricultural experience. Carol's had a very busy past year and continues to remain active and busy. She goes out and does a lot of in-person school visits to work with both teachers and students, mostly in AET, the Agricultural Experience Tracker. And Carol is our go-to guru for helping troubleshoot problems with AET, as well as helping inexperienced teachers get their students started with AET. Carol also serves as our state liaison and coordinator for Keystone degrees, and has reported an increased number of submissions of Keystone applications, and also very positively and enthusiastically reports that she has seen an improvement in not just quantity but also quality of the projects that records are being kept on for those degrees, in terms of less pet projects and more actual sort of career readiness, livestock, entrepreneurial type projects that students are doing. So Carol is an invaluable resource here in Pennsylvania, and we hope to add to Carol by the commission supporting an occupational advisory committee specialist that will do much the same as Carol, work with programs at the local level to help boost our occupational advisory committee capacity for programs all across the state. And just in the nick of time, Dr. Shealy is logged back in with us and says he can hear. So Dr. Shealy, I provided the update on the upcoming trainings on mechanics that we have coming up in the coming months, as well as working with Tim on various other industry connection endeavors, and also provided a quick brief update on our SAE specialist, Carol Fay.
Great, John. Appreciate it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, that's excellent. There's nothing like technology when it works. Anyhow, we're back in the swing here. So I also wanted to just take a little bit of time to talk about this K through 8 emphasis that we're involved in right now. This is a really interesting phenomenon. This has really arisen from local areas who are exploring using agriculture education, and I think a lot of it was driven by the STEM kind of work that's being done across the Commonwealth. So people have discovered that ag is a great way to teach science and technology, engineering, and math. And so as that has gone forward, we find teachers who are very interested in bringing some of our ag information to earlier grades. I think that's one thing that's happening. The other part is that I think we're all aware of the fact that that this generation who are now coming to be parents really has a lot of interest in food, where food comes from, how they can be involved in the food system and that sort of thing. And I think that that has spurred some of the interest at the lower grades as well. So as I mentioned before, we do have a group that's a part of the Agriculture Education Commission that is working on this. We have tried purposely to put people who are informal educators as well as formal educators together in a way that we can kind of share information perhaps from their two worlds. One of the things that we have talked about, and we'll have more information, Dr. Eskin talked about a little bit earlier, is ways that we can share that information via a portal. We have also done quite a bit of work in terms of offering out various kinds of curriculum and such that's available. But Jonathan, if we can pull it off, one of the things that we just unveiled here, actually we did a soft opening of this at the farm show, but we have been running a social media campaign that actually supports information going to the parents of children in grades K through 8. We have been running that for the last 6 weeks now, and we're really just flabbergasted by the responses. We have had 3.1 million impressions, which means people have actually come and looked at it. And whether they stay there or not, that's another thing, but those numbers look pretty good as well. Jonathan, are we able to show a couple of those right now?
Yes, do you want to start with the Ag Career Awareness flyer?
Oh, that'd be great. So this flyer will be coming to all of you here within the next day or so. This is it's a PDF that has a whole variety of bits of information that you can grab out of here. You can take some of the artwork, that's all available. There's a link that goes to static graphics, which will be similar to what you see here in terms of the kids. Kids are the future of Pennsylvania agriculture, is really what we're trying to put out there as kind of a slogan. We're going to talk about at some point or another ways that what you are doing in your local venues can actually tie into this, but we actually have provided some newsletter copy, some other kind of copy that you can use to be compatible with the themes that we're trying to put forward in this particular emphasis. If you go up here to the one link, John, the one for the commercials, the videos. Let's take a look at those real quick. Just pick any one.
Kids are the future of agriculture. The limits of their future are bound only by their imagination. Over the next 10 years, Pennsylvania will need 75,000 new pairs of hands to feed the community and the world. Plant the seed, help them find their future.
And maybe one more, John. So this is meant to span the gamut.
Limits of their future are
Stop
bound
talking.
only by their imagination. Over the next 10 years, Pennsylvania will need 75,000 new pairs of hands to feed the community and the world. Plant the seed, help them find their future.
So these spots are really meant to span the gamut of occupations that are available in agriculture. You know, they address biotechnology, but they also address ag mechanics. They address animal agriculture, plant agriculture, and all the rest. So again, we're going to get this to you. Mr. Brammer is going to send that out probably in the next day or so. And we really invite a dialogue about how we can use this as a jumping off point to continue this conversation, in particular to your school districts. And if there are people who are on the call from nonprofits who do this kind of work, we're very interested to talk with you about that as well. So Ms. Romberger is also with us, and we consider the Pennsylvania Association of Ag Educators to be another important stakeholder in our group, and we've asked her to say a few words about PAAE. Ms. Romberger.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, so you guys can see your PowerPoint ready to go?
Yep.
Perfect. So knowing that we have a mixed audience here of some teachers that are PAAE members, some other individuals from different organizations, really I wanted to touch on just a few different topics that kind of relate to all those audiences. So we'll quickly go over some organizational updates and let people know how they can contact us if necessary. Quick preview for summer conference, an update about the 3 Circles Summit that a couple of representatives from Pennsylvania Agricultural Education attended a few weeks back, and then discuss some current initiatives going on within our organization. Okay, so really looking at us as an organization as of today on our membership, we currently represent 108 agriculture teachers at the secondary level. We do recognize that we do not have membership for every single classroom teacher in agriculture education across the state, but we really, with the establishment of the new commission, really need to reevaluate what teachers are looking for within a professional organization. Is it really just representation that we can communicate with those making decisions? Is it making a new pipeline to communicate our wants and needs? So since the commission has really kind of taken off the past couple of months, we really need to decide as an organization best ways to utilize this new avenue that's been created to communicate with secondary needs. In addition, we've recently created a new way for us to communicate with members more effectively on an as-needed basis. So you can see our new email is listed there. Our regional vice presidents will be utilizing this email, again, to contact members for regional specific events, such as meetings, or to collect information from members when hot topic issues arise. And another update is if people are wondering where we're at, We currently solicited award applications from a few individuals that were nominated for different categories. They're currently being judged, and we hope to do a big push and get promotion for those award winners after SLLC in mid-March. So please stay tuned and feel free to share the word for educators that are selected for those respective award categories. Looking forward to probably the largest event that we host and look forward to each year to encourage our members to attend would be Summer Conference. So you can see the dates listed there. It's July 6th through 9th, right after the holiday weekend. This year we're headed up to the northern region in Tioga County. We have a great committee working to plan the conference and professional development offerings at Wellsboro High School, where Melanie Bernstein currently teaches. I don't want to divulge too much of their professional development design yet, but I will say kind of when I think the northern region, they have a lot of resources regarding forestry and environmental and natural resources. So workshops will be kind of unique to that region and things that we could not do at other locations in the state regarding those two content areas. So I encourage current PAAE members to block off that time on their calendars and really encourage your colleagues to attend once that professional development schedule has been released. The committee is targeting a registration release date for April 1st, right prior to our regional meetings for the spring here. Back at the beginning of February, the Three Circle Summit was held as a collaborative effort between the National Association of Agricultural Educators and also National FFA. So they allowed a leader from each state's teachers organization, FFA, the FFA Foundation, and post-secondary programs to attend the two-day event out in Indianapolis. And this type of event hasn't happened for quite a few years, so it was good that we were able to be a part of this and really see some initiatives coming down from the national level. And as the name of this event implies, it really focused on different resources available and the philosophies surrounding how can we implement a balanced three-component program at the secondary level. So some highlights that I took from it as a teacher that I will kind of take back and share with our membership at the first available point was the storytelling workshop and some strategies on how to connect with different audiences that our programs need to engage with. So as opposed to just telling people who we are, we need to connect with them and understand what the bigger issues are. So the big issue is we need people to feed the world, and there's not enough people going into agricultural occupations. How can my program kind of fill that void, but also connect with those individuals? So some interesting perspectives from that workshop that I think all of us could learn from. Another unique aspect was the government relations workshop that was actually put on by Caleb Wright of Versant Strategies. And they gave us a handout from the National FFA organization that said, can the FFA avoid being a campaign photo op, determining the difference between campaign and official events, and how not just to be showing up for picture opportunities and when your organization has a story to tell. And then the last one, again, goes back to this topic of STEM integration. There were various sessions on different applications for how agriculture education programs can engage with this and really meet the needs of different occupations that are out there. So really discussing how Microsoft and like the new Farm Beats package that they are working on could be included. Again, integration of STEM through like the Case Ag Mechanics pathway, elevating learning through technology that was put on by like the National FFA Ambassador Program, and then finally Flipgrid resources. So they were pretty worthwhile things that really just got you thinking as a teacher and really how you can elevate your program to that next level. If you're interested in any of the materials that I was referencing, as well as like video recordings of those presentations, if you go back to Mark Peschel's weekly email that was sent out this past Friday and scroll about halfway down, you will find a link to a folder that contains all of those resources. And then also some pretty interesting sessions that were recorded specifically on inclusion, diversity, and equity. And NAAE and National FFA also provided their vision for the future as well. And then the final bit that I had wanted to share before doing some meeting reminders for dates Some current initiatives that we have our eyes on and that we are trying to be a part of and represent our members is collecting accurate data for the number of ag teachers that hold science certifications. Just that way we have that information prepared so we can portray our programs in a positive light when questions are asked regarding what type of courses our teachers are teaching. In addition, we recently became aware that the Pennsylvania Department of Education is revising the Pennsylvania science standards. And we know some programs are involved in teaching environmental science and ecology, and those standards actually fall under the science standards. So a couple of our board members do plan to attend those virtual sessions that are happening this week on Wednesday. And then again, there's another one on March 11th if you are interested in registering for those virtual sessions to learn about how those standards are changing. And then finally, just a shout out to some of our PAAE colleagues that are hosting Ag Ed showcases this week all across the state. So Fort Cherry out in the west, Manheim in the east, and then Greenwood here in the south central region. If you see any of their materials being shared, if they share photographs from the events, please share those and the good work that those programs are doing. Again, very, very solid programs that really support the full three-circle component model. And again, just really just giving those educators a shout out and supporting them as professionals. And then finally, for the members that are in attendance, and again, other stakeholder groups that may have an interest in learning more about the teachers organization, you can see the dates listed for each region. Okay, so we start up north and then kind of work our way around during the month of April. These meetings are also held in conjunction with our state officer candidate school that will be put on by the Pennsylvania FFA officers. PAAE members, please expect, you'll see that RSVP information come out from your regional vice president, both of that new PAAE email address, but then also in the Tuesday Teach Ag emails as well. And like John had said before, I'll be happy to hang on for a couple minutes after the presentation to answer any questions that could impact secondary agricultural education or our teachers.
Yeah, thanks, Darla. And I think there's a number of things you brought up here that we really need to get together on. Your goals as the Education Association are very similar to the goals of the Commission, and we need to figure that out. So at this point, Mr. Brammer, are you available?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Let her rip.
Oh, very good. I was just talking up a storm earlier and nobody was listening at all. I guess it wasn't come through. So my luck. But let me first of all just start with a huge thank you. A thanks to all those who are in attendance or on the call or on the webinar. It looks like a really good cross mix of those folks who actually teach agriculture education every single day, and a good mix of those who are indirectly involved in agriculture education. And we couldn't be happier to have everybody with us. I want to back up and give just a little bit of an update on a piece of information about the Commission and how it actually supports our students and our teachers, for that matter. For those of you that don't know, there was about 34 different teachers who actually participated in some professional development earlier in the year, which was all because of the Commission. And actually offering those scholarships available to our teachers in order to be able to do that. In addition, for the first year, the Commission supported some direct student training and programs through the AET system in making sure that that particular piece was available to all of our students. So again, for the teachers that are on the call, if you don't have students enrolled in the AET system, we would strongly suggest that you try to get them into the AET system. So we pay for every student in Pennsylvania taking an ag class to have a subscription to AET. So please, please, please take advantage of that. Let me jump to some FFA updates. Won't take too long to do this, but first of all, just want to say happy National FFA Week. We actually kicked this off, I think, on Saturday at the last ACES weekend, but I know everybody's got a super busy week with FFA Week, and as Darla mentioned earlier, if you're taking photos and things, be sure to send them out there on social media And I know that the state officers are even looking for that kind of information to help share out this week of all the great things that you're doing. For the teachers on the call, the State Legislative Leadership Conference registration closes tonight at midnight. So please make sure that you've got your registrations in. Wanted to give just a couple of updates in regards to our next Board of Directors meeting that will take place on March the 6th at 2 o'clock at Penn State University. Those meetings are always open to anybody who wants to attend, so we would encourage you to do that if you can. Every region has two representatives, two teacher representatives that serves on our board, and you're more than welcome to get any questions or concerns or any comments you want to send to the board. You can actually send it through those teacher reps. And if you're not sure who they are, just check out the website. We have everybody listed there as well. An update on our state convention that's coming is very, very soon. Registration will actually go live April 1st. The deadline for registration this year will be May the 4th. And again, because of those dates have changed this year, our convention dates will be June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So start watching for a lot of information to start coming out in regards to convention and activities week. And in fact, today you probably, some of the teachers should have gotten some emails in regards to the nominating committee and getting applications for that. And of course, our state officer application hopefully will go live sometime this week, and we'll send that out as well. One thing I want to share with you is, again, for basically everybody, is the National FFA website, ffa.org. And I'm going to try, John, are you available? I want to switch this over to a website if I can do that real quick. Hold on one second here.
That share screen button at the bottom of your page there, Mike.
There it is. There it is. So if you're watching on on your computers, you should see a screen that's popped up that says Educator Resources. And hopefully everybody can still hear me. John?
Yes, you're good, Mike. You're good.
Okay, good. So on FFA.org, when you go to the website, if you click on your dashboard, underneath the dashboard, or just click on dashboard, you don't even have to be signed in to FFA.org to find these things, but there is a ton of educator resources on FFA.org. And this particular site here, I just wanted to show it to you. It'll tell you what's new. If you click on the lesson plans, it'll show you everything that's under the lesson plans, and then there's educator guides, there's program management, and then of course there's professional growth. But one quick thing I'll show you just under lesson plans, if we go down here to like FFA intro and we click on that, it usually takes a few minutes, but it goes to a box, and there's all kinds of things here that you can actually use in your classroom. So tons and tons and tons of information available on that particular site that you may or may not have been aware that they were actually there. So just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that and saw that. And with that, I'll pass back to Dr. Sheely or to John.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brammer. And now we'll toss it back to Dr. Sheely. Dr. Sheely, in your closing remarks, I guess, could you include for us, what are some of the big take-homes you want folks on this call walking away from today, knowing that the commission is working on for them?
Yep, thanks, John. So I think the first thing is we're going to work on our webinar skills. See if we can do a better job with that next time. But be patient with us. We're adult learners, and we're some of us, have been around for a while, so we're trying to pick it up. So, but beside that, I think maybe what you heard in terms of the presentations today is that there's lots of good things that are going on, not just with the commission, not with just with your association with FFA, but the departments are involved in some good things, and we're all trying to get together. The experience that I have had as a person who's been in public service, for quite a few years, is that in Pennsylvania we have many, many resources, and oftentimes, you know, in spite of that, we don't talk to one another and we don't share the resources. My pitch to you today is that as we move forward with regard to the commission in particular, our interest is actually bringing people together to get a broad group of stakeholders to be very dedicated to our mission, which is understanding what the agriculture education system is, not just K through 11, but K or early kid, pre-K to adult. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in adult education, and we haven't even really begun to tackle that. But I think bringing us together, sharing some of that vision of where we want to go. The industry itself is really in a bad place right now. It not only has a lot of disruptions that are occurring in terms of the way it does business, but it is hamstrung by a worker shortage, which is just overwhelming. So with all of that, I think a common purpose, you know, sense of collaboration, wanting not to reinvent the wheel, to share the good resources that we have, and to keep moving ahead in a good way. I think that's really where we're headed. So at this point, again, many of the folks on the panels have thanked you. I want to thank you again for being a part of this. We are prepared to stay on the line for maybe at least another 20 minutes or so and answer any questions that you might have. So I think we're going to let Jonathan field questions, and you know, we'll be happy to take them as you have them. How do people actually raise their hand then, and if they want to speak, John? Can you give them some instruction on that?
Sure, Ken, Scott. I'm going to ask a question that Tanya has posted to our Q&A session, and in the interim, while that's being answered, I just want to make you aware, as Dr. Shealy mentioned, you can ask your questions by typing them into the chat box or by the Q&A feature. You can also raise your hand, which there should be a raise hand icon in your participant list if you're joining via Zoom on the computer or through the Zoom app. You can raise your hand and I will assign you speaking privilege to ask your question verbally as well. So think about that, and if you do have a question that you'd like to ask verbally, I'll give you a couple minutes while this question is being answered to find that raise hand button. So Tanya Weibel asks, and Darla, I'm going to guess this question is most directed in your way.
Sure.
Is PAAE membership and the conference only available to secondary ag teachers, or could informal ag teachers reaching K-8 audiences also benefit from the membership and the conference?
And that's a great thought as we really start to think about other groups really seeing that ag is valuable at different ages. So to answer your question directly, Tanya, for this year, I would say that most of the programming is kind of related to current things that secondary teachers have in their classrooms. However, with that being said, if the right individual with the creativity and the mindset to really take that information and make it relevant at younger ages, I think they would absolutely find it valuable. To answer the second part of that with membership, again, currently the mission is stated at, we try to serve those at like the upper middle to secondary levels. That's not something to say that we should explore to be more inclusive of those educators, especially if it's the goal of Pennsylvania to kind of move in that direction and to get education at those lower grades. So if you need any further clarification, feel free to reach out to me at that PAAEteachers@gmail.com account, or my personal school email will be fine as well.
Thank you, Darla. I have a question that might, we got an even better question from Mr. Brian Pfeiffer here. His question is regarding new programs, certifications to existing programs. How many courses in the present scope and sequence can be used in a new program certification? That would be probably an excellent question for Dr. Huskin or Dr. Burkett. If Dr. Burkett is here, and on the chat box, maybe she could type, but Dr. Shealy and Mr. Brammer.
Yeah, I think that's something we can get for you. I don't know enough the detail of it. We'll have to talk to our PDE folks, but it is a good question, and we need to get that. We'll gather that information and get it around through your communication sources.
Thank you for the question,
Mike
Brian.
Mike Brammer, you don't know the answer by any chance, do you?
I do not. I do not. That's above my pay grade.
Me too. Okay. We will gather the information and get it out to everybody within the next couple days.
Okay, Brian and Tanya, thank you so much for the question. Is there anybody else that has anything? Now is an excellent time where we have all of these very resourceful personnel together here. If nobody does, I have one that I know Mr. Brammer spoke of, as well as Dr. Shealy touched on as well. But so I'll go ahead and ask mine, and maybe somebody will think of another one during the meantime. Mr. Brammer, I know, specifically spoke about the funding towards teacher professional development. Can we expect more coming in the future here? And forgive me if you addressed this, but can we expect that funding again coming in the near future?
I think he may be muted. There we go.
Yeah, I'm back. So every year the commission, of course, operates on a budget, and I know that right now that discussion is actually being had, and we are hopeful that those dollars or some dollars would actually be available to continue some of those programs. Would you concur with that, Dr. Shealy?
Yeah, I would. I think we're really at a point where we'd like to continue that funding. You know, we think this is part of the mission, and particularly as we find some of these gaps that are out there. You know, I think when things go along pretty well, we don't want to get in the way of that. But when we have gaps that develop, that's where we'd like to put some of the dollars. And it appears that there are some of those that we've identified. That's where we've invested up to this point, and I think we'll continue to do that going forward. One of the next areas that we hope to look at is the area of horticulture. And we have been with the industry trying to work on a task list that they can feel comfortable with. We'll have some information on that, and we'll also do some crosswalking back to the state standards so that we can see where we stand with regard to what the industry is looking, what they're looking for.
Okay. I guess going once, going twice. Last call for questions. We're welcome to stay on as long as you have questions, but we don't want to belabor the issue. Dr. Shealy has something to add?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we would be helped by is that there are a variety of ways, and several of the speakers talked about how we communicate to the various stakeholder groups that are involved. There's a variety of ways that happens. Penn State is doing it, PAAE is doing it, your national entities are doing it. I think that we would be helped by having some idea of, do you want to hear from us? Do you want to hear from us quarterly? Do you want to hear from us in a webinar? Do you want to hear from us in a report of some kind? I guess the question is this kind of thing helpful? We use the occasion of FFA week to try this for the first time. If it is helpful, we'd be happy to look into doing it again. If it's not, we don't want to do anything you don't want. How about it? What do you think?
Again, you can type your responses into the chat box there. Okay, so while you're thinking of a response or finding the chat box or whatever you're currently doing, we do have another question that we can answer from Barbara Gleim. Barbara asks, only one of 9 provides pathway to CTE. I have heard of this issue for years now. What is the timeline to add ag production, natural resources, wildlife, forestry tech, etc.?
Well, I could probably take that. So you're talking about the certifications that people are able to get in terms of the various ag courses. That issue is really in play right now with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. They have identified 6 of those 9 as being ones where we could actually have a vocational certification approved. There's a lengthy process that they have to go through with the Higher Education Commission, but I think maybe Dr. Huskin mentioned it earlier. They are pursuing it, and we have been getting regular reports about it. So we think that that's going to move ahead. I mean, we hope that it's going to happen sooner than later, but we'll keep the pressure on and see that, you know, that issue gets raised at the right places.
That answer your question, Barbara? And thank you for asking it. Okay, there you have it. Dr. Shealy always looking for some input as to how we can, you know, help communicate what the commission is doing. Oh, Barbara's on. Oh, she said yes, yes, and thank you to answering that question. So Christine has provided a little bit of input, and Darla about bringing these diverse groups together. As Dr. Shealy alluded to, we hope to do more of that moving forward. And if you have ideas as to how we can best do that, if you'd like to see more of this, more State of Ag Ed updates, update webinars, perhaps twice a year maybe, or just annually or whatever, please let us know. Anybody on any one of our panelists today, you can report that information to. We thank you for being here, and we'll do one last call for any last minute questions that anybody may have thought of here. And if not, we will thank all of the panelists for being with us today and providing this update. Thank you to all of the attendees. Again, we know your time is precious, and though it was just an hour, it's a very valuable hour of your life. So thank you again to everybody for attending, everybody for participating and presenting. At this time, if there's no other questions, we can call this concluded.
Thanks for hosting, Jonathan.